Hello, Tech Chillers. Welcome to the most interesting session you are going to listen to throughout the whole of Tech Chill. Big claim, but we have a big name and a big company to follow it. We have David Aubespin, the VP of Product of Hopin. David, hello, my friend. Welcome to Tech Chill.
Hi, Matt. Nice to see you. Very excited to be here today.
Thanks for joining us from New York, actually, and I'm in Lisbon. So this is really testament to what Hopin does, really connecting the world through online events and streaming. But before we get into you, David, I want to make a promise to everyone watching this that today we're going to chat a little bit about Europe's fastest growing unicorn. Hopin is currently Europe's fastest growing unicorn to date. It's beaten Revolut, it's beaten TransferWise, it's beaten all the big wigs from London, from Frankfurt to Berlin. Hopin is the sexiest company to be working for, apparently, at the moment. And David is going to tell us a little bit about hypergrowth and what it's actually like to work in an organization that is growing at such a fast rate. I'll give you some stats just to add some context to who Hopin is and what they're doing and why we should all care about that company. So fastest growing unicorn in Europe at the moment. They just reached a $5.3 billion valuation. David, it's probably changed. Maybe it's 10 now. That was last week. Next week, it'll be 20. You guys seem to be growing at that kind of rate. The company's not even 2 years old, founded in 2019. It's raised almost $600 million, pushing 100 million ARR. That's a startup buzzword that we all should know, annual reoccurring revenue. It's the gold standard in the tech world. And David has been there since October last year. David, I've got to ask you, mate, the thing that comes to my mind, what is it actually like working in this holy grail industry as a hypergrowth company? I mean, is it all just smooth, plain sailing, business after business after business? Fill us in. What's it like from the inside?
Yeah, it's very, very smooth, very boring to some extent sometimes. That's exactly what it feels like. I'm obviously
Same
joking.
stuff every day.
Same stuff every day, right? So yeah, I a lot of people talk about hypergrowth, and yeah, I work in a hypergrowth company, etc. I would say this is definitely the hypergrowth of hypergrowth, right? So and it could be great for some folks. It could be also a nightmare for some others, right? So for example, I interview a lot of candidates. I spend a lot of time gauging how frustrated this environment would be, because it is fun for some people, but it could be really, really hard, right? It's extremely chaotic. There's lots to do, lots of moving pieces, and some people are okay with chaos, but at the end of the day, you need to be a little bit more than okay. You need to move the needle as well with, within that chaos. So that's challenging at times.
And how does it compare to having worked in Google? And you've been in the US for over 2 decades, right? Working in this industry, both with physical events as well as technology companies. How does it compare? Do you get that same buzz? Are we looking at the next kind of Facebook? Are we looking at the next? How does it feel compared to those kind of big giants that we all look towards?
So I was at Google in 2005-ish, I think, when the company was about 6,000 employees, and by comparison, it felt like working for GE, right? And no offense to GE, but definitely not the kind of hypergrowth company. So I've never really experienced anything like this, right? It's I don't. Maybe there are some companies that are growing roughly as fast, but I had never experienced something like this.
And in terms of what Hopin actually is as a platform, I mean, many of you listening and watching this might know Hopin, you might have used Hopin, but if this is completely random and new to you, David, how would you pitch Hopin?
Hopin is a virtual platform initially, but it's now going to be an online platform that connects everyone in the world at events, obviously. That's it. That's really, the high-level overview of what we do. And we've been pretty agnostic in terms of what an event actually is, but we've really focused on the SMBs, the 50 to 10,000 participants kind of events, but we're going to grow beyond that.
But that's the curious thing, right? So all of us watching this, well, firstly, I want to thank you for supporting our industry and our ecosystem, because we are all important components to the event industry, right? You can't have an event without attendees. You can't have sponsors without attendees. So you as attendees taking part in the digital Tech Chill, thank you so much for continuing to support the scene. But I feel your pain, because I miss physical events. David, I miss that. And I know you've worked in that industry.
I miss that as well.
And it's will they come back? Is Hopin going to replace all of that? Should we just forget about physical events and just only look at online? What is your opinion on that? And what is Hopin trying to do to sort of be a hybrid in that space?
Well, I hope we don't replace that, to be honest, right? It would be a very boring world if we don't get to meet people in person. I think at least as of now, I don't think anything can replace the energy of being somewhere physically, right? But in short, you asking me also if we're a little bit what's going to happen post-COVID, right? So, and that's a fair question, by the way. That's one that is asked by most people who interview for Hopin, and definitely one that I asked Johnny before I joined, right? So, but the way to think about it is the following. So the pre-COVID, the event industry was a pie, which was about 99.99% physical events, and almost overnight with COVID, the entire industry went virtual, right? And in that model, Hopin quickly became the leader. Now, when Johnny and I started talking back in July 2020, Johnny was already thinking ahead. And as a matter of fact, when I joined Hopin, I was in charge of our hybrid efforts before hybrid was even a thing, right? So now fast forward to 2021, and we're starting to see the beginning of the post-COVID world. What's happened is events that were physical only are slowly moving to a hybrid format, no doubt, right? But at the same time, the size of that pie grew a lot, and there's really now tens of thousands of virtual events that would have probably never even existed as physical events only because of the associated costs, right? So in short, that's I'm not really worried about the post-COVID world. What we're going to do is we're going to be laser focused on hybrid, and we have a few actually major announcements to make in the upcoming quarter. But at the same time, we're going to double down on virtual because that's where we're seeing a lot of growth, and that's really our DNA.
Feel free to make one of those announcements now, David. This is a great platform. I mean, maybe we could get some spoilers in here, tease us a little.
They're going to be massive.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, that's good. Maybe Hopin weddings, Hopin birthdays, we could do that. But actually, that's an interesting point you made, David. And I wanted to touch a little bit on that for everyone's knowledge as well about the expansion of the pie. Like you mentioned formally, if you wanted to host an event, I've hosted several live shows of my own in Oslo with my book launches or various documentaries I've made. And, it's like you said, the associated costs. Like I have to rent a venue, I have to do all these things with no guarantee that anyone's going to come or buy a ticket. And this is obviously in the pre-COVID world, right? And, I'm lucky if I sell out, or I'm lucky if I sell enough tickets. And then at the, like anyone who's ever organized an event, it's like no one buys tickets in all the build up. And in the last 2 weeks, you're dropping it's discounts here and package deals there to try and get people to buy tickets. And eventually you fill the seats, right? And you get the sponsors to cover the ones that weren't bought. And it's a balancing act, right? But in the world of post-COVID and in the reality that the majority of physical events might continue, but in a smaller scale, right? So we can do sort of 50 to 500 people in the same venue size as maybe TechChill used to occupy in Riga, which can take 3,000, for example, right? But that opens up the ability for anyone anywhere to not have to travel. So one, it's sustainable. The cost required to attend these events is lower. You can be more selective because let's be honest, we've all been to an event where we just wasted half the event just walking around and we're also trying to work in the background with our laptop in a coffee bar or something like that. So where do you see the industry of online event hosting going, and what can Hopin do to excite us about what's coming?
What's really exciting for me is, I spent almost a decade trying to crack the networking at events. So I think that's where I see a lot of exciting opportunities, especially as the world is going to hybrid, right? Because great networking is really about engineering serendipity for people who are sharing the same context, the same experience at the same time. And that's really, really important. And events are a great context for networking. So in the physical event only, not only is the number of people limited by definition, right, as you were saying, but people also mostly go from one session to the other, and then they check their email, their YouTube, they work a little bit, exactly what you said. So there's a lot of missed opportunity, and I see a lot of exciting opportunities there for connecting the virtual attendees with the physical ones, right? First of all, that pool is going to be much, much bigger, and the possibilities are going to be endless. But also we have this very strong context that is the event. So the networking doesn't have to be awkward, right? And then, of course, we can start thinking about some absolutely crazy ideas around VR and you name it, robots. And we could do a lot of crazy stuff there that I'm hoping to announce in the next few months.
Aha, we got it out of you. We got a spoiler alert. I love it. We worked it. Well done, you and me, your audience. I love you guys for that one. But that's the thing I keep hearing. Now, as the author of the Startup Buzzword Dictionary, I literally wrote the book on startup buzzwords. I thought I would introduce a buzzword to everyone that I heard recently in Barcelona: phygital. Physical meets digital. It's the new startup buzzword of 2021. It's definitely Hopin's startup buzzword, I'm sure. Physical meets digital. I've seen this really interestingly in the world of fashion shows, where a fashion show, they would only have the celebrities come, the 20, 30, 50 celebrities sitting, in along the runway, and they would live stream the event. And actually, all of a sudden, everyone could watch it in their offices, at home, in clusters. And that's a really new way where a whole industry is going to emerge. So I wanted to ask you a question, actually. Now, you are a frontier technology in a frontier industry, really leading the way at the moment, right? In this new world of virtual streaming, we're all navigating it. You're figuring it out, train tracks in front of you as you go, right? As you said, what side industries are going to be created out of this? Because I'll give you the example of Airbnb, right? Airbnb creates a whole new industry, and all of a sudden there's Airbnb servicing, there's key box companies, there's all kinds of industries that emerge on the periphery of that core industry. So what industries could we start companies in to support Hopin or Hopin's customers in the future? Do you see that happening already?
I don't think I see it happening already, but for example, we've been very agnostic when it comes to events, right? Event is an event for us. But you've mentioned, for example, I think you mentioned weddings. I think you mentioned you've mentioned birthdays, maybe something like this. That's where potentially I see a lot of services, new services emerging, right? So right now, a wedding planner is mostly about finding a venue and some nice flowers. There's a lot more to it right now. People would be able to attend weddings all over the world, share the experience, shared photos, etc., etc. So, and we don't do that, right? We're going to provide the platform to allow people to do that, but we're not going to go into the services of doing this. So that's potentially where I could see a lot of new services emerging.
Mm-hmm. In terms of, obviously you're a B2B platform, right? Business to business. You help and support businesses run events. What about the consumer? So, we've seen Instagram pushing lives. We've seen YouTube pushing lives. I do them on my YouTube channel, Lunicorn on YouTube. I do lives occasionally. And they're all trying to basically push the beauty that allows individuals. Now, I saw this a year ago when COVID first hit us, and I got called by the European Commission to run all these live broadcasts, right? And we were just figuring it out as we went. We figured out that we could live stream through Cisco WebEx system, and we just did it that way to Facebook and other channels, right? And what about, we've seen another hypergrowth company, which I think might not be hypergrowth anymore, Clubhouse, right? In the last year, Clubhouse have, reached 1 billion in a year's time frame and all this kind of stuff. But I stopped using it 2 months ago, and I haven't even looked at the app again. It maybe had its peak. But the beauty of that was that it enabled consumers, individuals, brand builders, personal brand builders to have a platform of distribution. Yep. Is Hopin the new consumer platform of distribution? Will you allow consumers to, for example, run their own live shows? Welcome to the Matt C. Smith live show on, TechChill, and people could tune in on a regular basis on Hopin's platform and be able to pick different shows like Netflix.
Yeah, I think so. That's so. A few months ago, we've acquired StreamYard, and there's a lot of shows, right, already happening there. What's probably missing a little bit now is how do you connect with the audience in between those shows, right? How do you create a community around a show or around an organization or around an organizer? So these are the problems that we're starting to look at. I was going to ask you, why did you stop using Clubhouse?
So I think it comes down to, for me, and I made a video about this as well, like why I think Clubhouse had an opportunity to succeed was that you need to create, like television did back in the day, a program schedule, right? So on Thursday at 8, I always tune into that conversation, right? So I didn't find any consistent shows yet that made me want to come back at that time, right? Like my podcast, we called one of my podcasts Breakfast with the CEO for the very reason that we wanted to create a consumer habit. So for anyone watching this and you want to do a podcast or do anything, here's a big tip: create a consumer habit. Have a name, a time that people it's hard to forget, or it's part of their daily habits. And that's why I've just kind of not gone back to Clubhouse, because also I live in Lisbon, and I think that's why my screen is a bit fuzzy today. There's a crazy thunderstorm happening right now. My window is about to break. I am now allowed to go outside and go to bars and restaurants again. And Clubhouse was a great supporter of me. Maybe that's what Clubhouse was meant to do, for me at least. Be there for me between lockdown 2, December to April. But now I'm allowed out, and I don't want to sit and listen to people conversations. I want to have conversations outside. That's why.
Understood. So, well, we're going to be working on creating those consumer habits. I think a very good way for us to start is we have literally tens of thousands of organizers. And at the moment, I only know about these organizers when they create an event. I can't really interact with them in between events. I can't really follow them. I can't really subscribe to their shows, that sort of stuff, and add those to my calendar. But that's probably something that's going to be about to change soon.
Aha, we got another spoiler out of you, David. That's fantastic. Thank you. It's just fascinating to see an organization like you guys growing at such scale. And I always like to use these platforms in these conversations to anyone watching this who's curious about Hopin, who potentially is looking for a job right now as well. Like, Hopin, you must be hiring, David. What are you looking for?
Everything. To be honest, everything. I think we have a page on Greenhouse. Feel free to go there. There's probably about 100 titles that we're hiring for, and many positions open for each of these job postings. So go for it. I'm hiring for product, obviously, across the board, designers, PMs, PMMs, well, you name it. So yeah, if you want to join an exciting and very chaotic company, now is the good time to do so.
Exactly. And it's interesting because Hopin obviously was founded before COVID, actually. A lot of people think, for example, Clubhouse as well, that was an opportunistic venture. Some guys and girls got together, created a product based on a necessity, and it was a hit success, right? But that's not the case with Hopin, was it? Johnny, if I can say that, I believe he had some experience with some health issues, the founder, and was sad that he couldn't attend events, right? And decided to create a product that allowed him to attend events. And that's sort of a beautiful way that this product was created out of a necessity that existed before the world changed. And it just so happened that that product was built on the basis of inclusion and allowing people anywhere, anytime to attend. And again, that's actually a parallel to Clubhouse, I think, as well, because Clubhouse does allow me right now to jump into a conversation in California or New York or Bali, go into meditation. Hopin's kind of DNA, like, what is your DNA built on? What is Hopin really trying to do in the world?
I think we're really trying to connect everyone anywhere in the world. And so, for example, I'll give you the example of diversity, right? That's a big keyword that a lot of companies throw around. And yeah, we're going to be diverse, and they have a diversity committee and all of that stuff. They write about it on their blogs. But by essence, Hopin is diverse because we literally hire anywhere in the world, right? We are fully remote. We hire where the talent is. And I think that's a major difference with any other company that I worked at before, where diversity is a goal, when we're at Hopin, diversity is very much our DNA.
And you've raised for some pretty impressive VCs recently. I know Andreessen and Horowitz have come into your round too. Your most recent Series C was a $400 million round, right? That just really closed. What's next for your funding journey? I mean, are you as an organization pushing for an IPO? Where is Hopin going in the next sort of, because you're growing so quickly, it's probably safer to say, where are you going this month than where are you going by the end of the year? But are you building teams, as you said, fully remote, focusing on regions? For example, US first, Europe second, Asia third. What is sort of your scaling strategy in terms of your business?
Yeah, so international expansion is going to be a little bit more of a focus now, right? Up until recently, we've been opportunistic, and wherever there was demand and we could address it, we were there. But we're at the scale where we need to optimize a little bit for certain markets, and that's what you're going to start seeing also for the rest of the year. Where for example, we need our product to be fully internationalized for Asia, for example, right? And right now, most of it is internationalized, but not all of it. Most people think of us as a big public company sometimes, but they forget that 2 years ago we didn't even exist, right? So a lot of these bricks that most well-established companies have when it comes to internationalizations. These are the things that we need to build quite quickly to address those markets.
Because I imagine localization must be a really important element to this, right? So building local teams, right?